Jason thought his wife just needed some space. But when their son uncovers her shocking secret, everything changes. This is a story of betrayal you won't want to miss. After 24 years of marriage, Jason Carter had planned a surprise trip to Italy for his wife, Sarah. But he had no idea that his life was about to take an unexpected turn. As the president of Carter Financial Group, Jason had built a successful and stable life for his family. The company, founded by his grandfather, was a symbol of both family pride and responsibility, and Jason was determined to carry on that tradition. "Good evening, sweetheart," Jason said as he walked into their spacious kitchen in Austin, Texas. Sarah looked up from the kitchen table, her face unreadable. "Hi. I thought you'd be home earlier. What's that big red envelope?" "Valentine's Day was a while ago, you know. I had some important work to take care of," Jason replied, placing his briefcase and the envelope on the counter. "This is something we need to talk about tonight." He joined her at the table, where she had already poured 2 glasses of wine. Jason noticed a notepad and pen in front of her. "How was your day?" Sarah asked, her voice flat, as if the answer didn't matter much to her. "It was fine," Jason replied cautiously, glancing at the notepad. "But it seems like my evening might be more important than my day." Sarah sighed, as though weary from something deeper than the conversation they were about to have. "Yes, maybe so. I've been doing some serious thinking about my life, and what I want to do in the second half of it." She explained how the recent passing of her college friends, along with their children leaving the house, had led her to start reflecting on her own existence. "And that brings me to us," Sarah said, looking at Jason with a directness that made him uneasy. "Our 24th wedding anniversary is coming up. That's a long time, Jason. A lot of my friends are already on their second marriages. What's holding us together? More importantly, what will keep us together for the next 24 years? Jason listened carefully, trying to keep his mind from racing ahead. "I hear you," he began slowly. "I've been thinking about my own life too. A lot of guys my age fall into the midlife crisis trap, buying flashy sports cars, chasing younger women. I've seen it with some of my friends, but I've always been thankful I've got a wonderful wife like you. What can we do to make the next part of our lives something to look forward to?" "That's one of the reasons I love you, Jason," Sarah replied, her tone softening for a moment. "Most men don't care. They think it's their wife's problem to solve. But here's the thing, I've always lived in someone else's shadow. First, it was my father's house. Then college, where I lived in the sorority. And just after that, I moved in with you in the house your grandfather gave us for our wedding. I've always been in someone else's world, sheltered, taken care of. I was never truly independent." Her voice grew more passionate as she continued. "Being with you has been fun, Jason, but lately it's not enough. I've become the wife of the president of Carter Financial Group, the wife of the president of the Chamber of Commerce, the wife of this, the wife of that. I'm always in the background. You're the star, and I'm just here, orbiting around you." Jason could feel the tension building in her words. "I have to break out of this, or I'm going to lose my sense of who I am." Sarah took a deep breath and looked him straight in the eye. "I need space, Jason. I need to step out of this orbit, and I've decided to take a 6-month break. A hall pass, a timeout, whatever you want to call it. For the next 6 months, I'll be living somewhere else, with no contact between us. It'll be hard, but after those 6 months, I'll come back, and we can figure out where we go from there." Jason stared at her, trying to process what she was saying. "No contact at all. I understand that you need space, but completely cutting ties seems extreme. It's the only way I can truly see who I am without you, without being the wife of Jason Carter," Sarah explained. "I've already rented an apartment downtown and I'll be moving there this weekend." Jason's heart sank. "You've already rented a place? This seems so drastic, Sarah. I thought we could work through things together." Sarah shook her head. That's the problem, Jason. We've always done everything together. I've never had the chance to stand on my own. For the next 6 months, I want to focus on myself, my interests, my hobbies, my identity. Jason leaned back in his chair, struggling to keep his composure. So, it'll be as if we're not married? You're just leaving. Yes, that's exactly it, Sarah said. It's like a separation, but not a divorce. I want to explore who I am without you, take some classes, meet new people. I need this to grow, for both of us. Jason felt a cold knot forming in his stomach. And these new people you're talking about, are they going to include other men? Sarah hesitated for a moment, then smiled. Probably, but probably no one will want to take me out to dinner or anything like that. Jason's voice tightened. Probably. So, are you saying you're planning on dating while we're separated? Maybe, Sarah answered, her tone casual. I haven't decided yet. I just want to experience life fully. My only experience with men has been with you. I want to broaden my horizons. Jason's face darkened. Sarah, we're married. I've been faithful to you for 24 years, and I expect you to do the same. We'll see what happens, Sarah replied nonchalantly. It's just physical, Jason. It doesn't mean anything beyond that. After 6 months, I'll come back a better woman, and we'll be even stronger together. Jason felt as if the air had been knocked out of him. This no-contact idea seems extreme, Sarah. Can't we work this out with counseling, or maybe just take some time apart without cutting off all communication? Sarah shook her head again. No, it has to be cold turkey. If I keep relying on you, I won't be able to grow. I need this break to come back to you stronger, with a clearer mind. I don't know if I can handle this, Jason said quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. Jason, we need this. It's not forever, just 6 months. After that, we'll reevaluate everything, but I need to do this now. When do you plan to move out? Jason asked, his voice hollow. This weekend, Sarah replied, her tone matter-of-fact. I've already arranged for movers to help. Jason felt the weight of her words settle over him like a heavy blanket. I don't know what to say, he stammered, his voice barely audible. Finally, after a long silence, he whispered, can we at least talk about this a little more before you make such a huge change in our lives? Sarah reached out and took his hand, her eyes softening. Thank you for listening, Jason. I know this is hard, but I truly believe it will make us stronger in the long run. I love you for being so understanding and not fighting me on this. Jason pulled his hand away gently, his frustration rising. You trust me too much, Sarah. I don't approve of this at all, but it seems like you've already made up your mind, and my feelings don't factor into your decision. He stood abruptly, pacing around the room. My head is spinning. I don't even know what to say or how to react. Maybe we should go to bed and talk about this tomorrow. Will you be joining me in bed, or has the separation already started? Not tonight, Jason, Sarah replied softly. I have a lot to plan before the move, but I'll come to bed with you later. Jason climbed the stairs to their bedroom, his body and mind heavy with exhaustion. But sleep refused to come, as questions and doubts flooded his thoughts. Later that night, he felt Sarah slip into bed beside him, snuggling up against his back. She kissed his shoulder gently, and he felt the dampness of her tears. I'm so sorry, Jason, she whispered. I'm sorry too, Sarah, he responded, his voice strained. I love you, she said softly. Is that the last time I'm going to hear that from you? Jason asked, his voice thick with emotion. No, Sarah whispered, her voice barely audible. I want us to be better after this. I promise, I'm coming back to you a better wife, a better person. The next morning, Jason woke up early, leaving the house before their usual routine of sharing coffee in bed. He couldn't bring himself to pretend everything was normal. As he sat in his car, he texted his friend Dan, who managed Austin Elite Auto, looking for advice. Later, when Jason met Dan at the dealership, he explained Sarah's plan. Dan listened carefully, his face growing more serious as the conversation continued. "Jason, it sounds like she already has someone else on the side," Dan said bluntly. "She wants to test the waters before fully leaving you. If it works out with this other guy, she'll dump you. If it doesn't, she'll come back, say she's rejuvenated or something, and expect you to take her back without question." Jason stared at his friend, feeling the pit in his stomach grow. "How do I stop this from happening?" "File for divorce," Dan said firmly. "And the sooner, the better. Put yourself in control of this situation. If she leaves you, file on the grounds that she abandoned the marriage. The divorce will take about 6 months to finalize. If she wants to come back, you can always refuse to sign the papers and stay married. But you'll be the one in charge." Jason shook his head. "I don't want to end my marriage like this." Dan leaned forward. "If she cheats once, and you let her come back, it'll be easier for her to cheat again. You have to be strong, Jason. Don't be a pushover." Jason left the dealership with Dan's words echoing in his mind. As he walked through the lot, his eyes fell on a sleek black BMW 440i convertible. On a whim, he decided to buy it. "If my life's changing, I might as well make some changes of my own," Jason thought as he signed the papers. That evening, when he returned home, Sarah was waiting for him. "Jason, where have you been?" she asked, her voice anxious. "I missed you this morning. Can we talk?" "I've been thinking a lot about what you said yesterday," Jason replied evenly. "I needed some time to clear my head. Took a drive to clear my mind." Sarah looked at him with concern. "Jason, I didn't mean to shake you up like this. I love you, and I just want what's best for both of us. Let's sit down and talk. I'm willing to take the day off work tomorrow if that's what it takes." Jason felt a flicker of resentment rise in him. Where was this concern yesterday when she dropped the bomb on him? He swallowed hard, trying to keep his voice calm. "I need more time, Sarah. This whole plan of yours caught me off guard, and I need to figure out how I feel about it. Let's have dinner tonight like usual, and we can talk then." "I can cook something for us," Sarah offered quickly. "We can have a nice, quiet evening together." Jason shook his head. "No, I'll pick something up on the way home. Don't worry about dinner or cleaning up the kitchen." Sarah agreed, relieved that they would have time to talk. That night, as they sat down to eat, the tension between them was palpable. Jason listened as Sarah outlined her plans for the apartment, the classes she wanted to take, and the things she planned to do during her 6-month break. When she asked if she could take some of the furniture from their house, Jason agreed, though his voice was distant. "Thank you for being so understanding, Jason," Sarah said with a smile. "You're being so thoughtful about all of this." Jason forced a tight smile. "I'm not sure how you'll fit everything into a 1,200 square foot apartment, though. What are you planning to do with the extra stuff?" "I guess I could leave some of it here," Sarah suggested cautiously. Jason shook his head. "If you're leaving, then all of you should leave. You can't use this house as a base while you're trying to start a new life. You're either in, or you're out." Sarah's enthusiasm dimmed. "You're being really difficult about this. You're giving me a bed, but suddenly you're a jerk about the rest of my stuff. What am I supposed to do with it?" "Rent a storage unit," Jason said coldly. "You've been planning this for a while, so I'm sure you've thought of everything." The conversation quickly spiraled into a back-and-forth argument over logistics. Finally, Jason laid down his stance. "Look, Sarah, after thinking about all of this, I've done some soul-searching of my own. If you're going to take time away to figure out what you want, then maybe I should think about what I want too. Maybe I should trade in my wife for a newer, more interesting model. Sarah's eyes widened. What are you talking about? Just like you trade in an old car when it stops working right, Jason explained coolly. Maybe it's time for me to swap my wife for someone younger and more fun. Don't you dare. Sarah hissed. I'm doing this to improve myself for us. You don't need to go looking for someone new. Jason shrugged. I don't like your idea either, but you didn't give me much of a say in the matter, did you? You decided this without considering how I feel about my wife running off to be with other men. So, I'll do what I want for 6 months too, and we'll see where this goes. The argument intensified until Sarah stormed out of the house. Jason sat there, alone with his thoughts, the red envelope containing plans for their trip to Italy still lying unopened on the coffee table. In the weeks that followed, Jason threw himself into his work, finding solace in the routine and distraction from the turmoil at home. He began to reclaim parts of his life that had long been dictated by Sarah's preferences. He redecorated the house, replacing the family photos in the living room with vintage movie posters and sports memorabilia. He grilled steaks on the patio every weekend and blasted blues and jazz music through the house, things Sarah had never particularly cared for. Meanwhile, Sarah moved into her new apartment and began taking feminist theory courses at the local community college. At first, she embraced her new freedom and independence with enthusiasm, but as the weeks went on, she found herself missing her old life more than she expected. Her excitement for her new experiences was tempered by the growing distance between her and her children, who struggled to understand her decisions and grew more distant with each passing week. As the separation deepened, both Jason and Sarah found themselves navigating unfamiliar territory. Jason reluctantly attended court-mandated counseling sessions, where the therapist asked probing questions about their relationship and what had led to their separation. Sarah insisted that she just needed to find herself, while Jason maintained that her desire to explore relationships with other men was something he couldn't accept. During this time, Jason also began to spend time with 2 women, Lauren, a widowed mother in her early 40s who lived down the street, and Megan, a former professional golfer turned real estate agent, whom he met through mutual friends. Though Jason enjoyed their company and friendship, he remained committed to his vow to remain faithful to his marriage until it was officially dissolved. Sarah, on the other hand, threw herself into the single life with gusto. She started going out to nightclubs with recently divorced friends, soaking up the attention from men who found her attractive and confident. A fateful night out at the Moonlight Lounge, one of Austin's trendier spots, led to her meeting a charming stranger named Ethan, an encounter that would have far-reaching consequences she never anticipated. As the 6-month mark approached, tensions between Jason and Sarah continued to build. Sarah was convinced that Jason would welcome her back with open arms once her journey of self-discovery was complete, but Jason had been forever changed by the betrayal he felt. When their children found photographic evidence of Sarah's infidelity, photos of her with Ethan at the nightclub, the final nail was driven into the coffin of their marriage. The day of reckoning came at the lawyer's office, where Jason and Sarah were to meet and finalize the terms of their divorce. Sarah arrived first, dressed in a new outfit and brimming with confidence, believing that this was just a formality and that Jason would take her back. Jason arrived a few minutes later, placing the now infamous red envelope on the lawyer's desk. "I'm sorry I'm late," he said quietly as the room settled into an awkward silence. The lawyers exchanged pleasantries and paperwork as Jason and Sarah both signed the final divorce decree, as agreed. Then, Jason turned to Sarah. "Is there anything you'd like to say before we finish this?" he asked. Sarah took a deep breath, her confidence unwavering. "Jason, it's been a long 6 months without you, and I've had time to reflect and grow. This experience has made me a stronger, more enlightened woman, and I'm more committed to our marriage now than ever before. I'm thankful for the space you gave me to explore myself. I believe I've become a better wife, and I'm ready to come back home." Jason listened with a blank expression. When she finished, he spoke in a measured tone. "Faith is about trust, Sarah. The vows we took are built on that trust. Without it, there's no foundation for love. That's why we're here today, finalizing this divorce. Over the last 6 months, I've spent time with several women, but I've remained faithful to you, as I vowed to do. He paused, reaching for the red envelope and pulling out a photograph. It was a picture of Sarah and Ethan, taken at the Moonlight Lounge, clearly showing them in an intimate moment. Have you remained faithful to me? Jason asked, his voice now hard and cold. Sarah blinked, her confidence faltering. It was just a kiss. It didn't mean anything, she stammered, her face flushing. I wasn't unfaithful to you, Jason. Jason remained silent for a moment before reaching into the envelope again and pulling out another photograph, this one far more explicit, showing Sarah in a compromising position with Ethan. Sarah gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. Where did you get this? She whispered. Were you following me? This isn't about me following you, Sarah, Jason said, his voice rising with barely contained anger. This was taken by a friend of one of our kids. They saw you. Our son had to sit across from the man who made his father a joke and his mother. Jason's voice cracked with emotion. Imagine how that felt for him, watching you, seeing this. The color drained from Sarah's face as the gravity of her actions fully sank in. Tears welled up in her eyes. Jason's voice became louder and more heated. You wonder why the kids haven't been calling you back. It's because of this, Sarah. You think this is just about you and me? You've hurt our family. He turned to his attorney and handed him the signed divorce papers. Please file them, he said firmly, then turned back to Sarah. The sex meant nothing to me, Sarah pleaded, her voice breaking. It was just physical, no love, no commitment. It didn't mean anything, Jason. That's even worse, Jason spat out coldly. The fact that it meant nothing to you while knowing it would destroy me, that's the worst thing you could have done. Sarah collapsed into her chair, sobbing uncontrollably. No, no, no. I want to be your wife again. Please, Jason, forgive me. I promise to be faithful from now on. Please don't do this to me. I don't want to be divorced. I'll never do this again. I'm begging you, please. But Jason was already walking out the door, her cries fading behind him as he strode purposefully to his car. That evening, he spent the rest of the night at home, drinking whiskey and smoking a cigar on the back patio, the red envelope still lying unopened on the kitchen table. As the sun rose the next morning, Jason woke to the sound of gentle knocking at his front door. It was Lauren, her face etched with concern. Jason, are you okay? She asked, her voice soft. Jason managed a weak smile. Yeah, I'm okay. It's a lot to process. Lauren stepped inside, sitting down beside him on the couch. She wrapped an arm around his shoulders. You don't have to go through this alone. I'm here for you. Jason looked at her, feeling a wave of relief wash over him. Thanks, Lauren. You've been a good friend through all of this. As long as you need me, I'll be here, Lauren said, leaning in to kiss him gently. Don't rush into anything, Jason. You're going through the last remnants of a 24-year marriage. Let it take the time it needs to fade. Jason nodded, feeling the weight of the past finally starting to lift. As the days turned into weeks, he began to adjust to his new reality. His relationship with Lauren slowly deepened, built on mutual respect and understanding. Meanwhile, Sarah's life took a darker turn. The divorce settlement left her financially strained, forcing her to move to a smaller, less desirable apartment on the outskirts of town. Her attempts to reconnect with her children were met with hesitation and hurt. They couldn't forget the betrayal they had witnessed and found it difficult to trust her again. As winter approached, Sarah found herself facing long, lonely nights. Walking home from her evening job, she pulled her coat tighter around her, shivering against the cold. This is going to be a long, cold winter, she thought, reflecting on the choices she had made and the life she had left behind. Jason, on the other hand, found solace in rebuilding his life. He spent time with both Lauren and Megan, grateful for their companionship as he navigated his new world. His relationship with Lauren grew stronger as they bonded over shared experiences and an understanding that came from years of friendship. By the time the first snowflakes of the season began to fall, Jason had found peace. The red envelope, still unopened, had long been forgotten. He no longer needed the plans for the trip to Italy, he had his own new path to follow. And as the seasons changed, so did Jason's life, one small step at a time.